we're just waiting for Alice. She's joining currently. She actually made her way to the institute. So now we have to find a machine for her so she can join online. She wanted the real thing. Unlike some people who are not here. But anyway, here we are. Sithe, I don't know how you want to, maybe we did ask for like a few minutes, but I see we're already like 5 minutes in. I don't know if everyone is okay with waiting maybe 2 more minutes until she sets herself up. If it's 18:08, she's not ready, then she can join us along the way. She is here, but it's up to you, Sithe.
Absolutely. I think we can wait 1 or 2 minutes. But yeah, I mean, as soon as it hits that time, we'll go ahead and introduce ourselves around the room. But while we are waiting, Volane, would you be able, do you have a few words you want to say?
Oh, of course. Do not tempt me. You know, when it comes to that, I will take the whole hour. You should not have allowed me to do this, but I will try and be brief. I think that we can make an introduction to why we are gathered here today. I see Aluta is looking really cool. I want that filter. I want to look like Aluta right now. Eduardo is not sticking to spec, but it's okay. It's allowed. I mean, Fagu is our dear friends. That's cool. Hi, hi everyone. I'm Wendi Nadki. I work at the Goethe Institute, and today we are having our last panel discussions. The other two have been amazing. This is our third and final one. It's been exciting, a lot of insights, a lot of friendships made, a lot of, networking, a lot of new connections have been made, and it's amazing. You know, the build up to this has been quite interesting because we didn't know we could put something like this off, as it's never been done before in this type of way, in this particular sense. So the fact to see it being this successful, going on to be nominated for awards and being profiled in prominent publications, it's quite surprising even to us. And this is thanks to everyone involved in the project, including you guys and even the people that participated in the game jams. So just before I introduce today's, I'm not going to introduce today's panelists. That's Sithe's job. I'm just going to go over what exactly is happening today. Today is a hybrid event, so there are some people already at the Institute where we are opening the game jam, the final game jam at the Institute. It will be a hybrid event, so you are welcome to join via our Discord, and also you can come to the Institute if you can, but you can also jam remotely. During the panel discussion, I will share the rest of the details that you can join in, like all the channels where you can join in, and h.io channel and everything platform. So, and then there's the panel discussion. So we have some people also watching us at the Institute. So you have some people on social media, and you have people here as well. So basically what we're going to try and do here in as little time as possible is actually maybe just discuss probably certain things that that pertain to particularly, of course, to the topic at hand, which Sithe will introduce. But also, I think because the program has been ongoing for so long, I mean, there is also, and some of us have been witnessing it, there is also a chance to reflect on how effective it has been, right? And at the end of it all, we'll have, or not just effective, but just like what are the insights we've gotten, just like an overview. But also, after it, we'll have a Q&A from the audience who join us, and they can also share their, their experiences or questions that they have at the end of it all. So right now, I want to do a quick.
Actually, Volane, I noticed Alice is in the audience. Alice is supposed to be on the panel, correct?
Correct. Alice is supposed to be on the panel, but Alice is in the audience. Alice, please come over to the panel. She's got the link. I think she's using the audience link, and she's not using her personalized email, a personalized link. But I think someone is there. They're over there sorting it out with Tim. So they will join shortly. Thanks for that, Sithe.
All right.
All
So
right.
yeah, I'd like us to get started. Like I'm excited to
Okay,
get
I think,
into
yeah.
this.
Yeah, it's been quite fireworks the last hour. So I'll just read a quick statement, a statement on what basically every game account is about, and then we can get straight into it, right? Just also a word from our sponsors and things like that. So every game account is a gaming project of the Goethe Institute Johannesburg that promotes diversity and equality in and within the gaming industry. Every game account aims to strengthen the inclusion, networking, and visibility of underrepresented groups in the South African gaming scene and creates platforms that put the issue of diversity up for discussions. And this is done by organizing game jams and panel discussions where experts from all over the world discuss current issues in sports in the gaming community. Every game account is a project of a federal foreign office and the Goethe Institute in South Africa and Romania. And that will be the last time you hear from me. And over to Sithe, who's our moderator for today. Thanks everyone for joining.
Thank you, Valane. Hi, everyone. I'm Sithe. I'm the moderator for today, but you're really here. I mean, I'm not so great at introducing myself. I do a lot of things, but what you want to hear is these lovely people who are here. The panel is about representation in game content and content creators. So we have a variety of people here with us who dabble in game development, game events, and game writing, game journalism, game development, game events, game journalism. Yes, but I'll allow people to introduce themselves. Can we please start with Eduardo? Introduce yourself by telling us who you are, what you do, and then pass it along to someone.
Great, thanks. Great to be here. I'm Eduardo Cachucho. I'm the creative director for the Fakugezi African Digital Innovation Festival. I guess, yeah, I mean, my background with gaming had started much more around just being an avid gamer myself in my kind of younger years. And more recently, I'm also the creative director for a project called Digital Lab Africa, which is an acceleration and now also a bootcamp program for video games, animation, and XR. So I guess then the link ended up coming through those programs, starting to understand the gaming industry better from the kind of, the production side and how it works from the production side. And luckily, I was into gaming to begin with, so I had some kind of insight from also the audience side. And I think in general, I have a real interest from the audience side, how we're representing things to people. As a kind of queer person, I never really found myself really catered towards in the gaming space. So then for me, I also work a lot in communications. My kind of thinking is, okay, how do we open up the space to people who are not in the mainstream? So that's why I think Every Gamer Counts for me is this is like a really important program to open up that space for discussion. So yeah, maybe I'll hand over to Wendi.
All right, thanks, Eduardo. So hey everyone, my name is Wendi Nadki. I am a Kenyan and I am passionate about the fusion of art and technology. And due to that, I decided to name my brand Wendi Art It to also remind myself the importance of being consistent in my, craft. So I'm an entrepreneur and I aim to demystify the rising African gaming industry one story at a time. I usually do that through written word, illustrations, animations, and I'm currently writing for Games Industry Africa. And I'm affiliated to companies like Primotum Games, Africa Comicade, and GWeb Studios, among others. So that's a little bit about me.
Who are you passing it over to?
I'd like to pass over to Aluta.
Hello. Hope everyone is good. Really excited to be here. I am Aluta Null. I'm a digital artist, game dev, and most recently, currently, the field that I find myself exploring the most is extended reality. I'm very interested in combining the physical and the digital. I explore themes such as well, not themes, but my work, I guess, deals with politics, perception, emotions, and I reference a lot of nostalgic kind of tech a lot in my stuff. So yeah, I'm just very obsessed with the digital. For me, I use games as a medium of expression, like art medium, because I think it's a very, very powerful medium. And a lot can be done through games that cannot be done in other mediums. So yeah, that's me. Gonna pass it on to Alice.
Hi everyone. I'm not really sure my camera is. Don't know if it's not functioning or I'm just not with technology well. But I'm Alice. I'm currently a lecturer. I lecture at the University of Witwatersrand as well as at Vegas School. And I lecture in game design. So my passion for games, just the same as Eduardo, started when I was a child. Started probably when I was really, really young, when gaming was still using cartridges. And since then, I've just grown with the gaming industry. I never really thought I'd be in the gaming industry as a career. It kind of stumbled upon me. I was more into programming, software, but when I found out that this could actually be a career opportunity, that's when I slid into the industry. My passion in terms of gaming is more focused on how gaming can be used as a teaching medium or a teaching tool, be it in a more technical or educational space or just culturally. But depending on whatever the content is, games can be used to teach. And I'm very much passionate about how we can use games to do that. Thank you. I think I'll pass it on to Sithe.
Hi, I believe that's everyone. But I mean, if you want to know a bit more about me, I didn't introduce myself. My name is Sithe. I'm from Zambia. I am currently working as an associate producer for Nyamakop. I also work as an advisor for the Humble Black Game Developer Fund, and in my part-time, or kind of as a hobby, I document African women in games. Yeah, so that goes into I loved you guys gave great detail in your introductions, and something which I was wondering is have you recently consumed any content? In fact, just tell me, what recent game content have you consumed? Anything. It can be anything. It can be a live stream, it can be a video game itself, it can be a board game, it can be a festival, any type of game content. Yeah, Eduardo.
It's funny because you had sent a kind of email with the thing, and then I was like, oh yeah, I was playing this game, but I cannot remember the name. But I did. Oh god, I don't know. It won't show. It's called If Found with 3 dots, like an ellipses. That was the kind of latest full game that I played from start to finish, and it's a beautifully created artistic game that has a lot of kind of drawing and illustration and a lot of storytelling, and is a kind of telling of the experience of some queer characters in Ireland. I just found it so refreshing because there was only one way to go through a narrative. It was really like playing through this beautifully drawn and told narrative that I really kind of got sucked into it. I would actually play it at night when I was very stressed to kind of calm down. And they also so interestingly wove the queer elements in it. It never felt like it was also like really, it just felt like that was part of the world and they didn't really need to explain it all that much, which I enjoyed.
Oh, cool. So I guess that is a recommendation from Eduardo for if found, ... You can try that game out. Aluta, have you consumed any, in fact, what game content have you consumed recently? Can be anything.
Well, first thing, I think not just referring to games, but like I attended one of these conversations, which was really cool. That was nice. A game that I recently played, I found it on itch. I don't know how popular it is or not. Like, they are like a lot of games on itch. So I don't know if you guys know it or not, but it's called Please Answer Carefully, I think. And it's basically a game made in Twine. And it's about like surveillance. It's designed to be a horror game. I didn't find it very scary, but it's about surveillance and stalking. It kind of tries to create the feeling of you having a stalker. And I found that game very cool, particularly because of like, again, this goes back to me viewing games as like a really cool art medium as well. I really found it interesting how like they communicated a lot of the things. Like there was a section that really stood out to me where they would like the game was trying to force you to like provide a certain kind of response. And if you weren't providing that response, it would eventually make it such that regardless what input you put in the laptop, that response is then delivered. So like I just found that super interesting. So yeah, that excited me a lot, made me want to try push myself in Twine a bit. Yeah, that was cool. It's called Please Answer Carefully, I think. Yeah. It's done like a survey. Very cool.
Cool. Another recommendation, Please Answer Carefully from Aluta Null. Wendi, what game content have you recently interacted with?
All right. I mostly watch playthroughs. So there's this one playthrough that I really loved. It's called Detroit Become Human. It has great interactive storytelling, and I love that you get to choose from a wide array of alternatives, and each decision you make has its own consequence. And then the character and environment design was amazing. I loved how you could just get immersed and find yourself feeling like you're watching a movie rather than a gameplay. So that was awesome. I also love that they explored diverse characters. There was a woman, there was a little girl, there was a rookie robot cop, and then a mixed race guy who was half African American and half Caucasian. So yeah, I really enjoyed Detroit Become Human. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
So yeah, add that to the recommendations. And Alice, what about you?
So I play quite a bit because I always have to recommend games to my students that we can sit and analyze in class. So there's a whole range, but the recent one that I played was In Sound Mind, and I found this on the Epic Game Store. And it's basically about a character. We're not really sure who the character is per se yet. And it seems as though they're in either a abandoned building, something has gone really, really, really wrong, only to find out as the story builds is the patient was actually mentally ill, and they basically trying to piece what happened. They're just not really sure as to what has happened yet. So I haven't completed the game yet, but so far it's been really intriguing because you find little tape recordings, and these are of different patients who are visiting the same psychiatrist or is it psychologist, and I'm not really sure if they were being experimented on at this point, but I think that's where, it's headed.
All right, cool. Thank you for that. Oh, and we can finally see you. Great to see you, Alice.
Thanks, guys.
All right. So of all the games that were said, do any of you feel like you particularly connect with the own game you mentioned, or one of the games that someone else mentioned, or not just a game, but anything which someone else mentioned. Do any of you guys feel that you can nod or raise your hand or shake your head? Do you connect particularly with it? Okay, I see a nod. I see Aluta, you look like you're thinking. What are you thinking about?
Like, I'm specifically thinking about the game that I mentioned because, like, again, when I saw this question earlier, I was trying to think of it. Obviously, I didn't know what other people would say. So I was trying to think of it in the context of specifically what I spoke about. And I don't necessarily know if I like feel a connection to it, but I definitely was like, I guess, like very enthralled by it. I guess the only connection that I would say I felt to specifically please answer carefully was like the kind of anxiety inducing things that the game tries to like produce a lot of anxiety in the player. And so that's like a familiar feeling. So I guess that was the only thing that I really connected to. And again, it's very exciting to see how games are able to do that. But yeah, I don't know. Alice's game about mental health sounds really interesting. I'm always a fan of stuff like that. So yeah.
Cool. Yeah, the reason I asked these questions is because I wanted to find out from you guys if I suppose I could have asked it straight up, but this was a more fun way. But do you consume content that represents an underrepresented demographic that you identify with? Do you think of that? Okay, I see some nods. That's cool. That's cool. Wendi. Oh, Alice, you raised your hand.
Yes, I did. I would like to say I do, but the content, that I find rather is a little bit limited, and I can't really say it speaks to what I would consider as the underrepresented demographic that I would say that, yeah. So not really I can't really find enough content with relation to that, but I do try and look, and that I do find is a little bit questionable sometimes.
Would you give an example? I would really like to go into that. Like, could you give an example of like what makes it questionable?
Well, look, the last one that I can say that off the top of my head was the henna game, which is basically about black hair and how people from foreign countries, mostly your Asian countries, European, are always intrigued and fascinated by how big or fluffy our black hair is looking. So it was a very cool concept, but the way it was implemented could have been a little bit different. There's so much more they could have actually done with it. And yeah, what they created was more of a meme than an actual, something that you can engage with.
I see. Well, that's an interesting take, because I do remember Herna by Momo Pixel. Yeah, that's an example. That's an example of a game that represents the experience of a Black woman, but it is made by a Black woman. But what do you think? Actually, before I go on, does anyone else have any other examples of content that they interact with from an underrepresented demographic? Like, do you consume content from an underrepresented demographic? I do remember seeing some nods. Wendi, Eduardo?
Yeah. Also, due to the nature of the work that I do, like documenting what's happening in the industry, I go through a lot of content by African game developers. But I feel like there's still some aspects of myself that I'm yet to see in the content. For instance, it'll be great to see more queer content on there. Like, I'm happy to find out about eFound. So now I can go and check it out. So yeah, there's still an element of not getting everything that I'm about in the content that, I have access to. Yeah.
Great. And Eduardo, since you mentioned If Found, and you did say that it does represent queer folks in Europe. Did you say in Europe? But do you still identify with that game?
Yeah, not totally. No, I mean and look, everything is so particular that I think sometimes you find the niche in weird spaces because for example, like I'm a weird niche in myself, is that like I'm the queer white man growing up in South Africa. I grew up in a very small, quite conservative South African town. So that my experience itself was bizarre, like very kind of its own small niche. So I think the interesting thing is there's just so many possible small niches, although none of those or a lot of those are never represented. So actually a piece that I've recently watched is the new game Stray, which you kind of follow this cat. And I was feeling a weird connection with the cat just because it's so abstract that you can kind of put yourself in the position of the cat because there's no necessarily like cultural connection. And another thing I used to play a lot was these kind of exploration games called like Myst and Riven. And I think the reason why they connected to me so much was because they don't assume to try and put you in a place. You're in a completely new alien world, which allows you to kind of almost make yourself up in that space, which I think can also be quite freeing. But I've just been playing through this game that Aluta is mentioning, and it's quite amazing. It really makes you question how twisted surveys are, actually. And I feel bad because as a festival, we're constantly sending surveys out to people, and it's actually disturbing what we ask for people in terms of information every day.
Thank you for that, Jamaluta. I like the responses I'm getting. And it's interesting that I'm hearing you guys respond, or I guess it's how it's been framed, but as consumers of content, but you're all also creators. So it seems like there's a dissatisfaction in the representation in your representation within game content. But as creators, you're also on the other side. You're also able to create that content. So why do you think, or what barriers do you think stop creators from getting content out there that is representative of them? If that question makes sense. Does anyone want to have a go at that? Wendi, yeah.
For instance, the way I said, having access to queer content is a bit of a challenge. So in my country, for instance, the government actually bans queer films. So queer filmmakers get their films shown in other African countries and globally, but Kenya, so we don't get to see the film because they're banned. So for instance, also in the gaming industry, a friend of mine mentioned that he was thinking of making a queer game, but again, thinking about all the challenges he'd have to go through, he just stopped. There's no point. He said there's no point of going through all these hurdles only for it not to be consumed by the people I really want it to be consumed by. So these are some of the hurdles the African governments, when it comes to queer content. Also, maybe if I could add one last one. Also growing up, I remember seeing my male cousin getting a PlayStation as a Christmas gift. And due to the fact that I didn't have brothers at home, we did not have any video games to play. So we'd get dolls and, play outside with other kids, but play video games. So now I see myself in the industry, and I'm working with people who've been playing video games since they were kids. So also changing representation in advertisement and communication when it comes to video games, so that parents see that video games are for all children, not just boys. So when you're buying your children toys, just buy the girls' PlayStations as well, so that they get to, because there's a lot happening in the industry and there are many opportunities that they'd be able to, embrace better if they fall in love with the medium earlier in their lives. So yeah, those are a few things I wanted to highlight.
Great point. And that's a tough one, actually. The government one, overcoming restrictions from a government, that's a really tough one. Alice, you have something to say.
Just as Wendi was speaking, it kind of like I resonated a little bit with what she said towards the end. I did get a gaming console at a really young age. The only problem that I had was convincing my parents to buy me more games. So at some point, it reached a stage where, oh no, you should be overplaying games by now. We're not going to spend that much money on buying a game. It just did not make sense to them. So I didn't get exposed to as many games as I would have loved to. And I only started getting more exposed to those games in my older years, because I can now afford to sometimes buy my own game. But there is a little bit of a gap between me and other gamers, because there was that 10, 15-year gap where I wasn't playing as many games. I was just repeating games that I already had access to. So going back to your question about why can we not create as much content, it's also a fear, I think, for some of us, is that you don't think you are knowledgeable enough yet to want to tackle that. You'd rather first try and consume a little bit more, learn a bit more, and then you just find yourself not in the space where you're like, you know what, I'm running with it, I'm doing this.
Great one. So we've covered government hurdles, like obstacles from the government, society kind of putting discouraging women and girls or young girls from participating. Eduardo, what do you have to say?
Yeah, kind of like linking from what Alice was saying, it's also like, and I think this comes from both the production side and on the audience side, is like building the industry. And so, for example, I try as much as possible to support creators of queer gaming content, because I know it's so difficult to make that. It's so rare to even get queer people then taking that space in the industry and making this content, that we also need to, as audience, send signal to those people to say, yes, I care about what you're doing. I will buy that content. I'll be a fan, to also build up the confidence of people who are taking those risks. I mean, as we're saying, it's difficult to tackle like the kind of cultural acceptance of, let's say, queerness in Africa. That would be like bigger, more difficult thing. But let's say for women, I think it's important to also start those conversations and really get people to say, hey, we need to change the narrative. We also need to support women-only developed games more than we would other games, because that will also help. As soon as money starts flowing into that part of the industry, it will also start growing the ability of creators in that industry to really start investing in brilliant games and changing the narrative.
Right. With what you said, it makes me wonder, who do you think whose responsibility can you say it is, or who do you think can actually make the changes to seeing more diverse representation in games? This goes for anyone. Alice, yes.
I'm not really sure if I'm going to fully answer your question, but what Eduardo had said also kind of like, sparked my thought again. Accessibility to infrastructure, to resources is also very limited. So maybe the game Henna could have been because there was a limited resources the game developer had. And even after what she had released, no one actually bought into it to say that, you know what, this actually is a concept that we can actually build a little bit more on. Let's, try support you so that you can continue and not just leave it as just that short introduction, if I can call it that, for lack of a better way to phrase it. But yeah, so responsibility does lie a little bit to those who have access to resources and infrastructure to engage with those who do not, kind of like bring them in and be like, okay, let's do this together. I have this, you have something. How do we talk to try, create something together or build more on that topic that you were trying to speak to?
Absolutely. No, I agree with that. People, especially if you're listening to this, and if you have the resources and you can help us make some game content that represents, diverse people fairly. Like, put your foot in there. Put your foot in there. Wendi, what would you like to say?
Yeah, in addition to what Alisa said, also I recently had an interview I interviewed Ivan Skiragu, the CEO of The President, the game that topped the chart in the US recently and is currently downloaded like 8 million times. He was sharing so much value in that interview, and one thing that stood out for me was the importance of embracing partnerships. He mentioned like the way if you are a game developer or a content creator and you're really good at what you do, but you're not so good at marketing, you could partner with a publisher who so that you can bring your A game in the game development side, and then the partner comes with the marketing, and then they push your game. And also, even before you get to marketing, before you even create the game, they share the data that they have that would help your diverse content be able to, they'll tell you what works because they already have done the research. So you don't have to go through the whole process of creating a prototype without even knowing whether it will work. So yeah, just embracing partnerships and working with people who are good at what they do, and you bringing your A game and then creating a masterpiece that also makes financial sense because yeah, you've all done the work that's supposed to be done. Yeah.
Aluta, you've been quiet. I want to pose the question to you as well. Who do you think is responsible for us getting more diverse games out there?
Firstly, the reason I've been so quiet is because I've been very much a sponge in this conversation, just trying to take in as much as possible because very important questions are being asked. Who's responsible? Definitely not those who are underrepresented. I think a lot of people are kind of like, well, a lot of people have the energy of like, well, if you want to see something like this, then you should be the one that makes it. But I think when it comes to like diversity in this sense, it's kind of like when a certain group of people or a certain kind of people have been excluded from something, it shouldn't necessarily be their responsibility to like force themselves back into it, So I think my answer would very much be related to what Alice was speaking about with regards to like resources. I think people that have the resources are the ones that have the power to really do anything. I just come across that energy a lot of like, if you want to see this thing, you should do it. I don't like it because it's very like, it's very victim blamey, and it also ignores a lot of like social economic stuff that are like happening. And so I think yeah, people with resources and definitely uplifting other people, like people that are already doing, like already creating, for example, games that have Black characters, that have women characters, that have queer characters. I think people with the money and with the platforms definitely uplifting those. Yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Oh, that's great. That's more than 2 cents. I think that you've brought a really great point, and I think we should all be uplifting each other as well. Like, we're all in this together, underrepresented people in games. Like right now, we're all in Africa. We know what it's like in the games industry. So yeah, helping people out is, support each other. So with that, I think I would like us to move on to audience questions. But before I do that, I want to make sure we capture where we can catch you. I want to make sure people know where they can catch you so that we can actually support you guys and uplift you guys. So would you guys be able to share where people can find you online? Wendi, could you start and then pass it on to someone?
All right. Thanks. So you can find me on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And my handle is Wendi Nadki, as you can see next to my name. Yeah. So looking forward to connecting with you guys.
Who would you like to pass it on to?
Oh, sorry about that. I'd like to pass it on to Alice.
So I'm not very sociable. I don't do a lot of social media things, but I do have a Twitter account, and my handle is at Alice_wondering, and then the Alice is with the 1 in the place of the L. I am trying to actually make myself a little bit more visible online. So hopefully I'll be opening up a Twitch account, and maybe I'll be on Discord so that I can engage more, because I feel like that's also something that limits me, and I restrict myself with not being able to put myself out there enough. Oh, and I will pass it on to Eduardo.
I'll jump out of the template just for a while. So if you want to find Fakugezi, so that's the festival that I'm working. That's in October. So do check the website, like fakugezi.com or .co.za, and you'll be able to see details. Also, do check out the program. There's going to be specific elements on gaming. We are thinking also about representation even in those elements. There's a current jam. If you're in South Africa, you can be part of a gaming hackathon that has an amazing opportunity for incubation. So yeah, check us out on there.
And last but not least, Aluta.
Sorry, and then handing to Aluta, yeah.
Okay, cool. I'm very easily findable online. Done that very intentionally. So I'm on Twitter, Instagram, post a lot of my art on YouTube as well. Recently TikTok, trying to make that a thing. Yeah, and everywhere I'm Aluta's_theory. Yeah.
Nice. Thank you all. Do we have any questions from the audience, Volani?
I do not see any yet, but I have a question, but I'll just maybe wait. I can't wait to ask my question. But yeah,
ask your question. Ask your question.
There's nothing from the Q&A yet. Maybe we'll just give them some time to go over what the points that have been raised, because there've been quite a lot of very poignant points and that came up in this discussion. My question.
I have a question.
Oh, okay. You can go, Sithe. You can go, Sithe.
Oh, there is someone who's asking a question.
Yeah.
Please share a little more about games as a learning tool, directed at Alice. Games as a learning tool.
All right. So if you think about how many different things you learn when you first start playing a game, you learn the controls, then you learn how to, let's just take a simple game like, okay, it's not a simple game, but let's take a game like Tekken, for example. That's a little bit too complex, but apart from people just normally button bashing, you can get that eye-hand coordination where you learn how to do a lot of different things. And then on top of that, you start learning how to do the different combos and so on and so forth. So moving away from just the entertainment side, if you had to like implement more educational material, let's say, for example, you create a game revolved around you wanting to build circuits or teach circuits rather. That's something that they do in physics from like grade 9, 10. So if you actually had a game where the learner is not really aware that they're learning about circuits explicitly, but throughout the game, they have to like connect certain wiring. It could have a narrative behind it where they're probably more involved or absorbed by the story itself. But at the end of the game, when they start thinking about it, they might just realize that, oh, okay, I can actually connect different circuits. I know what a resistor does, why you would use a resistor, what the different parts of the circuit can be. You do it serial or parallel. These are the benefits of it. These are the disadvantages. But something simple like that where the focus is not the usual way we see educational games, which is just normally gamification, but it's actually interactive with a narrative or a story where that becomes the main focus. And then the other content becomes something that's subconsciously learned or as a byproduct rather. Meanwhile, that might be the actual material that you want to teach or teach.
Yeah, I think the term for that is actually tangential learning.
Yes.
If I'm not mistaken. Like, I mean, like for example, people playing God of War learn about history, about mythology, and all that stuff, like without intending to. But yeah, Aluta, you have something to say, yeah? And thank you for the question, Nareshni. By the way, Nareshni Chetty.
I just wanted to hop onto that. I liked what Alice was saying about how games can be like a not so in your face way of learning things. And I think why I love playing indie games so much is because indie games are made like by so many different kinds of people, and a lot of them are very personal. And because of that, there's a lot of games that help you learn about other people's experiences. And an example that I can give is like Anna Anthropy's Dysphoria, which is a very short game, but it's essentially about undergoing hormone replacement therapy. And I learned a lot about the trans experience and like just that specific tiny aspect of the trans experience. So yeah, I think that's just something I wanted to add, that like you can learn very deep things about people's experiences with things. Yeah.
Yeah, I hope that answered. I think that was a good answer. We have 2 more questions. I don't know where to start. Vulana, do you want to go first, or should I go through the Q&A?
No, I think, let's go through the Q&A.
All right, from David Olorundare. What exactly is the call to action for the audience on leaving this session? How exactly are we tracking comments shared by the panelists? And to make sure the conversations that I assume conversations don't just stop here, but have a follow-up action in our African industry. So Vulane has talked about what the whole Every Gamer Counts is. So these conversations are part of a larger initiative. And I think, Vulani, maybe you can answer this. Like,
thank you, Sithe. Thanks, David. That's actually a very good question. And as personally myself, I'm not one who's big on talks. I mean, I think these have been done, although this is quite a very unique conversation that hasn't been happened before. But I'm usually very avert to having talks because people just end up talking and nothing really gets done at the end, and we just have all these conferences upon conferences. So the panel discussions we're having right now are actually another component with this particular project, with the Every Game Accounts component of a bigger initiative. Most of it has already happened. Tonight is the last game jam that was part of a series of game jams. And in the game jams prior to this, we were actually going to underrepresented groups, some communities where even game jams have never been hosted before, places in the townships. Like I know 2 townships that we went to before today, where we hosted game jams that they had never heard of a game jam before. So it was the first time they were experiencing what a game jam is, let alone some of the participants didn't even know much about gaming beyond, your typical FIFA, and didn't have a lot of insights around that. So while we were there as well, we were also, communicating with the community and using the centers that are based there, meaning we were bringing equipment there and also bringing infrastructure and also tools to create games and leaving it with the community, ensuring that all those resources are, there's a longevity, there's a sustainability, they keep on being used, and also opening our doors to if they need support. So this is just one small part what this project is. And of course, the panel discussions as well add on to that, because there's conversations around what we have experienced there. There's also conversations around the industry, the more well-established industry, as you can see in the panels that we've had, where we have more of the experts who are also experiencing the same things in terms of, not their plights not being highlighted. So it is a bigger, particularly some might say it's a bit ambitious, but we've got some very interesting insights, which I can go on forever, but I think that's just an overall of what this project has been. So it's half of it is game jams in previously underrepresented demographics, and part of it is also panel discussions in marginalized communities, including Black women, queer folk, people with disabilities. I hope that answers some of the question.
all right, I hope that answers the question, David. Are there any plans? Oh, here's another question. This one's for you, Vulani, are there any plans to extend Every Game Accounts to other African countries outside of SA?
Of course, I mean, we really want this to be something that's a bit more than, what it is right now, and expand it and try to, of course, with the panel discussions we did, sort of reach out to other countries. As you can see, Wendi Nadki in this panel discussion is representing Kenya, but we have had panelists from other countries in the panel discussions. But on the game jams per se, we are always consistently at the Good Institute thinking around those sort of things. Of course, most of these things depend on budget, depends on people's take up on certain projects. So I know Aluta did say that we mustn't blame the victim, and she's totally correct, but how far the community as well welcomes this initiative, and if we get positive feedback, I mean, that gives us a little bit of oomph to, try and ask for more, support, and one of the things as well, I think one of the panelists mentioned, I think it's Wendi as well, mentioned the importance of partnerships. One of the main focus of something like this, we couldn't have never done something at this scope, at this level, and ambition without partnerships of some of the people that are in this panel. So we are always looking for those sort of things that people want to work towards this goal. So yes, there are plans, hopefully it'll be a much bigger project next time. So,
Right. And we do have another question from the audience, or rather from Kim. He would like to ask the panel, how much of African governing policies is impacting the creative industry, especially gaming? And what are the socio-economic issues we have experienced in the African continent that hinders the development of our industry, from culture, upbringing, political governments? I think Wendi did touch on that when we started. Well, she touched on one aspect of it. But would anyone like to have a go on this? Eduardo, yes.
Yeah, maybe I'll also kind of connect to a bit what Vulani was saying in terms of like the larger industry getting together and, you know, I mean, we've all kind of got to work together and also be coordinated in order to lobby governments to give the right kind of resources, because at the end of the day, those are really the only size or structures that can actually make a huge difference in this space. And I think projects like Every Game Accounts, for example, even the industry itself, through kind of lobbying better in the last few years, is already making quite a difference. So, for example, there was some research early in the year, which Tsimologong, which Fakagezi kind of falls under, called For the Win. That was a kind of large research around what's currently happening in the industry. We need better information and data to go to the government to lobby for better support. For example, what a lot of that support showed also is that the gaming space in South Africa is very untransformed. And I think quite rightly so. The South African government also said, okay, well, you want government support? First, prove to us that you have at least 500 young Black people who are in the gaming industry for us to be able to support it. So I think those kind of, we also need the data, we need to lobby. And I think something like Every Game Accounts is really important to shift the narrative so that we have also better narratives to kind of share. And I think that's also part of this research, was saying that, you know, the gaming industry being so untransformed, it's not good enough. Like, you cannot ask for government money when the industry isn't transformed. So I think those things they all kind of linked together. And I think it's for also that industry to transform itself, to change the narrative and try and be more representative, for it to justify itself going out and getting more support for the industry.
Thank you for that, Eduardo. Yeah, I hope that answers what you were. I hope you got the answer you were looking for, Kim. But yeah, there was some research done on this. Similar research done through the For the Win project by Tsimologong. Yeah, wait, I think you should know about it. You should know about it. Yeah. So I think that's it for tonight. Would we like to have some closing words from Vulani?
Yes. Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I don't have a lot to say. Just to thank everyone. I think it's very important just to thank everyone, particularly. Oh, but before we close as well, I did see, I'm not sure if Sithe, did we highlight? There's another question. No, it's not really a question, but it was from Nireshni. I think she was plugging her game that she has as well. I mean, I think it would be fair just to mention it. Did we read that out, Sithe? Did you see it in the Q&A?
No, I didn't read it out.
Yeah, just read it out, and then I think that's what we're here for, so people know what's out there in terms of people that, in terms of people working in the space who are not represented.
So Rashni shared their game. Please check out www.mindblowngame.com, aimed at grade 4 to 9 learners to stimulate curiosity in science and tech. It's a card collectible game. And we also have an anonymous attendee asking, how can people who are not currently in the industry get involved more? Well, you're doing it right now, anonymous attendee, attending these sessions. But yes, how can you get more involved in the industry?
I think that's, anyone can pick this one up.
Yeah, anyone can pick this one up.
Yeah, I'm putting Aluta on the spot. Anyway.
I was actually about to say, that I want to hear what Sithe has to say about this. But attending things like this, actually like playing games. I think definitely one thing that would help is like following a lot of people in the industry, like on social media, because that exposes you to like a lot of things that they're interacting with and like the things that they're making, the things that they're attending. And I think that would be a nice, easy kind of channel or portal to finding different ways to get involved. Social media is I think a very helpful starting place.
Those are actually some of the barriers that need to be broken down, but because not many people feel like this is an industry that they can just, jump into or get into. You need to be very knowledgeable, or you need to have access to a whole bunch of things before you can get into it. But like you said, Aluta, starting off small, doing very basic things, just play more games. And yes, resource-wise in Africa, data is expensive. We have electricity issues, so you can't always be online playing. But we can go back to basics, your board games, your card games, that those are kind of if we're thinking from a cultural point of view, that's what African gaming actually stems from, is those kind of social community games where we're all sitting tabletop wise, whether it's our grandfathers or, the older generation, we can all sit at the table and play the same game, but at the same time build some sort of social interaction. So we maybe should start growing on that, or you could start using that as your basic entry to get in. And then, from there you can be like, okay, what other card games are there? What other board games are there? Once you have a little bit more resources, or you can attend events like Every Game Account, then you get people in the audience giving you links to their games where you can actually now play other people's games. And that way you'll start building slowly but surely. Everyone tends to think that to be a gamer, you need to be playing these AAA games like Call of Duty, and you need to have all these kind of skills in order to play games first. But you can start with the very basics and build on as you go.
Mm-hmm. And yes, I say that all the time when I start workshops. Like, you don't have to. You don't have to play what you said, Alice. You don't have to be a AAA gamer to be a gamer. Like, even being a casual gamer, or what people call a casual gamer, kind of sometimes with derision, is still valid. Like, a game is a game. A game is a game. Even filling in surveys is a game. Yes. All right. Volane, would you like to close us off?
I need to close, but I have such a burning question for Wendi. But Sithe, I don't know if you're gonna allow me. Everyone's gonna hate me for this.
I'm not gonna hate you for this, but would you mind if, because unfortunately I have a prior engagement, and I have people waiting for me, but I would like to say bye. And unfortunately, I won't be here for Volane to close off this wonderful panel. But you can perhaps ask Wendi your burning question, and I will catch you guys later. So bye, everyone.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Sithe, for joining us, and all the best.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, catch you later. It's a small community. We'll see you around.
Bye. Yeah.
Bye. Hi. So Wendi, so guys, I'm just gonna ask one more question. I think we'll just not round it up. But I mean, this is open to anyone, but particularly because we also have someone who's a writer and a journalist, someone like in the space, which is quite a great opportunity to ask this question. Wendi, like, how do you see in terms of in the bigger picture? Of course, all of us here are within the industry, so of course there is a susceptibility to be in this bubble of ours where we're like, okay, we're discussing things that affect gamers, game development, esports, and people like that already, because we also have our own challenges within. But also in the bigger media, how do you see like, there are publications who are pro certain groups. There will pro-Black publications that report on Black art, on Black creativity, or marginalized communities. There are all these magazines and publications, and they're always writing about possibly things like whether it's fine art or photography or film. Do you see all of them picking up on game developers, particularly made from the Black or African or queer perspective, and highlighting those? How has been your experience in the more traditional media, and considering this as also a legitimate form of art to be highlighted in all these magazines and blogs?
Okay, so just to clarify, you're asking about games that are queer or
Yeah, just there are publications that will normally report on art, on film, on Black film, on Black artists, fine artists, not particularly Black game developers and things like that. I'm sure when you pitch sometimes articles to these publications, how is the reception? Do they themselves take this game development as part, like how they would take someone who's maybe a Black photographer, or maybe your traditional medium, so to speak? Do they give it the same attention and highlight it as much as they highlight the other endeavors?
Yes, I've noticed that media now is starting to highlight what is happening in the games industry, especially since many practitioners have been sharing, the African ones have been sharing the global numbers and how there's a lot of money coming in. So I see that there are many publications that are not necessarily game related or tech related also publishing about games in general. There's an uptake of people being interested in the gaming industry. It's just very slow to get more people on board. But I've seen quite a number of articles outside the gaming space on other websites. Yes.
No, thank you very much. Thank you, Wendi. Hopefully we get to see more. We get to see more and get gaming to be highlighted amongst that and take it as seriously as all other medium. I would say thank you so much. I'd just like to close off and round off this panel discussion. It's been amazing. The past 3 panelists, including this one, have been great. Been laughs, joys, also jokes, everything has been shared. And I would like for us, it would be great if you continue these discussions, even in our respective game jams and at the respective conferences, because I know a few of these faces will probably, I know there was a question which was asking how they can get more involved. I think from anonymous attendee, he also said this was a great panel, guys. Thanks on everyone's behalf. Thank you. But all of these people that you see here as well are also in other conferences, festivals like the Fagogesi Festival, which is coming up, game jams. So you can always see and meet them even in person and, get more insights and find your way in the scene. So before I bring this to a close, I just want to make sure that everyone is aware that today we are opening the game jam, the final one, which will run both at the Institute and also on remotely. You can join the Discord, it's on the webpage. You can go to South Africa webpage, you can join the Discord. You can also, we also have an itch.io page open. There's it's fun times. We will have tomorrow again, it's also online and remotely. And on Sunday, we'll have the closing, which will also be at the Institute. So you're welcome to come in at the Institute or just carry on at your own, wherever you are based. And then after that, we will also just gather all the insights that we've come across and also gathered throughout the whole process of the Every Game accounts, and what we've gathered going through the townships and also the panel discussions, and actually share with some of the partners. Some of it hasn't been, we can't announce it now, but it will soon be announced. And you will find all these exciting things that we've come across. Because, some people are doing amazing things. They are designing games in ways that we would not have thought. because of course they are not in the bubble that, we some of us have been in. They just, when they see this and they see a new art form and they see a new way to create, they just coming up with crazy concepts. And some of these games will be exhibited as well after this the Epic Game Accounts project. So thank you everyone. Thank you to the audience for joining us. And we'll catch you in the Discord channel and also in the game jam. Thank you for joining us. Au revoir. Oh, okay. There we go. Kim has just. Oh, well, that's Kim, our project coordinator. My fault, Kim. Forgot to mention. Kim is our project coordinator as well. He's been down and out in the project. We also have Nisa joining us at the Institute. She's live with part of the audience, and we have a team here as well, photographers and our technicians just assisting with everything. So I'd just like to thank everyone who's been part of this journey. It's not yet there complete, but we are almost there. And we want to continue this as long as we can. And we're just going to keep the spirit going. So goodbye, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Cheers. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.